Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I'm Hondo Carpenter, along with my guest, the great John Shop. John, we always talk and go around the NFL. I want to get into that in just a minute, but I have to tell you, you got your first piece of fan mail, and I apologize to the gentleman who sent it to me. I can't find it. I must have deleted it. But he wanted to know, when are you going to let John rip on one of those guitars? This is not a musical pod, but everyone wants to see you play it. So are you an Eddie Van Halen? Are you a Ted Nugent? Are you a Jimi Hendrix? Or are you a Gene Simmons bass player? What's your style?
Every single one of those, of course. Yeah, all of them. Yeah, we could probably do something coming into the show one time where I can turn it off real quick. A little bit of everything, but the thing that I end up playing the most, or what comes out most, is a lot of large soundscape atmospherics type stuff. That comes out as much as any kind of Soundgarden or anything else that I might be playing. But I play a lot of stuff, but that kind of stuff with a lot of reverb and a lot of echo and a lot of stuff going on, that seems to be what happens most often. And that's what I have on the tail end, on the out of my podcast, the Spartan Pride podcast. That's me just playing a little something at the very end.
So are you a little bit more Angus Young?
Well, I wish I could. I mean, I definitely can play some of that. AC/DC stuff's a lot of simple blues rock crunch sounds. Yes, I've got that.
They use a lot of reverb too.
Yeah, and I've got a lot. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of stuff just hanging around all over the place all the time. So there's a bunch of stuff here making a lot of noise at a good, nice level with master volume, which people understands me and won't shake the house or anything like that. I try to stretch and play pretty much every day. I try to play all the guitars at least once every week or two. But what happens most is I end up making a lot of spacey, wide open sounds, and then some that sound like a machine gun also. It's fun. It's a great hobby. Obviously, it's very easy to do. It's in the house. You don't have to go to a golf course or a pickleball court or anywhere else. So it's a lot of fun. And if you know just a few basic things, you can sound like one of those people close enough to where you say, hey, I'm going to keep playing.
All right. So, Johnny, let's dig in a little bit. Charles Woodson, a great Raider. Even got to give it to him, a great Wolverine. You and I are both Spartans. But more importantly, a wonderful guy. I love to see people, when you look at guys who, after their career in business, nobody's done it better than our Spartan Irvin Johnson, Magic. But anyways, his whiskey now, Woodson whiskey, going to be served at Allegiant. I think that's pretty cool that he was able to make a deal with the Raiders. And, the Raider motto is once a Raider, always a Raider. And now they're going to be serving his whiskey at Allegiant Stadium. I think that's pretty cool. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Woodson's certainly an interesting guy. We've seen him, just saw him a couple weeks ago at the celebrity golf event in Tahoe. Spirits are an interesting business. There's so many tequilas, from the Rock to Marky Mark to boxers, etc. This is a different turn. This is a whiskey. I'm not a whiskey guy, but there's thousands of them out there. This will be interesting to see how it goes, because I'm pretty sure if the Raider fans and other fans at Allegiant don't like this, it's not going to go well. So I'm super confident that it's going to go over very well, or it wouldn't be here. This is a big stage to break out as the official brand. And you're keeping it in-house, but I'm curious to see the reviews on it from those who like whiskey and know what it's supposed to taste like.
I don't like it. I don't even know what it's supposed to taste like. All I know is that my father later in life could afford whatever whiskey he wanted, but he drank wild turkey because when he was in the military, that was what he could afford.
Simple enough. Yeah, that's simple enough. It's a wild card out there.
I remember as a little boy, man, and cutting teeth, I rub a little, I mean, I don't remember. I just remember him telling me, rub a little wild turkey on there, it does wonders. All right.
Yeah.
So next thing I want to talk about was Hard Knocks. Now, you know this because you and I have been friends for 15 years. We have been friends a long time. We're good friends. I think we know each other well. We care for each other's families. And you know, I have been a fan of Hard Knocks from day one. I love Hard Knocks. And this last episode, one of this season, was the first one I ever saw and was completely bored. I mean, they're making a big deal about the guy who's the voice of Hard Knocks. And I know that the Jets didn't want to do it. They limited the access. It was kind of a joke because Aaron Rodgers clearly wasn't the Aaron Rodgers that we know what he was like listening to some of his teammates. And you know, I know some of his teammates there. To me, it was just a big infomercial, boring. I thought Hard Knocks lost its edge. I did not like it. And I think the NFL needs to, in the future, go to some of these teams and say, listen, we're going to let you say have yay or nay on some stuff, but you're not closing this out because you're hurting the entire brand. I thought it completely sucked, was horrible. I will watch one more and then dump it if it's as bad. Your thoughts?
I'm going to watch them all. I always do. But I think what you said might be the magic of it. It looked like the Jets really clamped down on it. So we saw the Cardinals clamping down in season last year. Obviously, this is a traditional Hard Knocks. We did see them clamping down. We didn't really get introduced to the guys that are going to be on the edge. I do think that Robert Saleh came off very well and came off a really good fit for a professional head coach. He doesn't look like he should be doing anything else, not at a college level, not anything else. He looks like a pro head coach, which is great. Aaron Rodgers definitely did look different. That may have been more intentional than not. It did come off a little dry. And I wonder if it was going so dry that they said, let's bring Liev Schreiber out here, who is the voice of HBO Sports. The interesting part of the show was how interested Aaron Rodgers was in meeting Liev Schreiber. Ray Donovan, for those recent fans of his, he's done a ton of stuff over a long time, but it's funny. Some of the kids on the Jets did not know he's the voice of Hard Knocks or HBO Sports, where some of us can remember it going back 20 plus years. So I will go ahead and watch them all. I do have that initial impression that you're supposed to get from the show that the Jets, this is a team that could win the Super Bowl, but Marty Colliner, I heard him talk a lot about it during the pandemic. And really the key of it is the Hard Knocks. That's what makes the show is the Hard Knocks. Bring your playbook, bring your iPad. Is this guy going to get cut or not? That's what we're looking to see in the next episode. That's really the core of the show. That's the best stuff. Interested to see who we're going to see from the New York Jets that may or may not make the squad and is right on the line of getting one of those Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I thought it absolutely sucked. And I'm going to watch one more. And then if it's as bad, I'm out, which sucks because I love it. I absolutely, it's like Star Wars movies. I love Star Wars movies. Shut up. Don't give me that look because I remember I'm older than you.
Yeah. I think you hit on it though. I think you hit on it. It looks like the teams are getting too much control, and hopefully that's something that can be negotiated back out, because the best Hard Knock stuff is usually the stuff they don't want it to be on there. Whether you're talking about the Jets, whether you're talking about Marvin Lewis impassioned speech to his Bengals, which was awesome. Whether
Rex
you're talking
Ryan,
about
let's go get a snack.
Yeah, I mean, that was more comical. I thought the Marvin Lewis thing was like one of the great things ever.
Yeah, I agree with
you.
How
about the pranks by the Baltimore Ravens, and arguably the best season of all those pranks? That was gold. Of course, those Ravens were gold. Let's hope that
I got to tell you though, there have been so many great seasons of it. I don't even know that I think I could do a top 5 in group 5 together.
Really?
I don't even think, yeah, because I mean, well, think about it. I mean, one guy who I do a podcast with every week, Kyle Cookie, he was on 2 of them for the Bengals and was a star. Riley Bulla, Joe Dirt with Tampa. I thought, so many of my friends have been on there and starred.
Yeah.
I just thought it was great. All right, I want to get to this last one because this one's, go ahead.
Well, I can give you a top 3. I would say the Bengals, the Rex Ryan Jets, definitely for me would be number 2. And I liked the Chiefs a long, long time ago, but I think the third might have been really the year that the Cowboys were expected to win, and Terrell Owens came in with a bunch of T-shirts that was such a big year. That might have been it. But
Okay. All
definitely
of those
worth
were
getting
good to
yours.
me. Yeah, they
Yeah.
were all great. I love the Raiders year. I mean, they were
Oh,
also
yeah.
good. All right, so
Yeah.
let's turn now to Eric Bieniemy. Now, Eric didn't. I know a lot of people said he didn't get a job because of the color of his skin, um, a head coaching job. I talked to, and you know, I have friends who are members of NFL management who are men of color. They told me specifically one, a general manager, a former general manager, said to me, I don't think it had anything to do with color. He says, I think people hire who they're comfortable with, who they know. And he goes, so I would have hired a coach of color. He goes, probably, but not because they were black, just because that's who a lot of my friends are coaches who happen to be black. He took a different approach. I don't want to get into the debate of what it was. I'm just telling you what his opinion was. And that changed me because I used to think it had to do with his color. And he changed me with that. But he said also he gets overshadowed because he's really good, but he's with Andy Reid, who everyone knows is probably one of the greatest offensive minds in the NFL today and probably within history. So he goes to the Washington Commanders. And everybody knows the reason he went to the Commanders for the same job was because he wanted to prove it's not Andy. I can do this on my own to get a head coaching job. And I applaud that. I applaud it. So he goes there, and several of these young pups start bitching, moaning, and complaining because they don't like him getting loud and he's tough. Well, first of all, he's replacing your old offensive coordinator because you suck, because you're terrible, because you needed a better coach. You go get a guy who's got the bling. He's coached a lot of guys. Shut up, take your coaching, cash your paycheck, and shut up. But I'm going to tell you who I'm really mad at. I'm not even mad at the players. Ron Rivera, the coach, goes to the podium and he's asked about it. And rather than saying, no, we don't have a problem, and having Bieniemy's back, he starts trying to, well, some people don't like you, whatever. It was so stupid of him. And let me tell you, he's coached a lot of bad football and some good football, and nobody's ever thrown him under the bus. And you go get a coordinator that, quite frankly, you didn't deserve. Now, he came back and had to walk it back, but we all know out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth spoke. And to me, it was so stupid. If I was Bieniemy, I would have been livid. I would have known I really can't say anything because he's my head coach. I don't want to lose my job. I mean, excuse me. I don't. It's not about losing his job because he's not going to. But I want to get my next job. But my point was, I thought the biggest mistake was by Ron Rivera. I don't think Bieniemy should change. Now listen. Andy Reid's known as a hard nose, but now that he's got them, Kansas City is a well-oiled machine. He doesn't have to be. But you can never let more toothpaste out of the tube. I mean, you can't put it back in the tube. So you start out strong, and then you can tap the brakes as you get it. But to me, this is it was an indictment of our youth and culture and how kids are being raised now. It was an indictment of Ron Rivera, and the only one who looks bad is Bieniemy, and he shouldn't. Am I wrong?
I don't know that you're totally right about who looks bad. This is certainly interesting for a lot of reasons. And for the folks that saw the quarterback show, they could definitely see Andy Reid. It's not that he has it on cruise control, but he doesn't need to be nitpicky and nagging and saying, this is the detail that has to be done. That machine is running well. Eric Bieniemy, you get a picture or two of him, but we know a lot more about him now. I don't want to be overly positive, but I think this is going to end up spinning into a positive. What I think this was more than anything is Ron Rivera's calling some of his players soft. They're not used to it. They're not used to the way it was. And when he goes back and just mentions some of the guys he played for, that's not the same game as it is today. So I understand Rivera may have made a mistake. I think this actually helps Eric Bieniemy because there have been rumblings of why Eric Bieniemy hasn't gotten very far in getting a head coaching job. And now we have a window into it very clear. So he may have a more abrasive communication style. He may not be communicating the way some of the younger folks want them to. I think that's something that's actually going to be spun into a positive. I don't know if Eric Bieniemy's heard that before. Now he has. Everyone knows it. And somebody hopefully is going to be there to tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, take this and move forward. This is only going to help you. So the Washington football team, who had Carson Wentz playing quarterback last year, that stuff's all done. And so is their offensive. The whole approach of everything is done. The fans that are there who were there from the heyday and some that have come back see this as Rivera is saying some of these guys are soft, and that's okay. So I think this is going to actually get digested better within the Washington football team fans than outside. These are fans, a lot of them have been around a long time. They had a lot of glory. The younger folks have just heard stories of the glory. There's going to be a lot of support there to toughen up a little bit. At the same time, there's going to be a chance for Eric Bieniemy to take a step back and understand, if he doesn't already, that this may be an issue. And as you mentioned, he's moved into a different spotlight. It's a different size spotlight because there's not a humongous shadow over it of one of the great offensive success minds in the history of pro football. That's not there anymore. There ain't nobody around DC that's a big offensive machine. All those guys are head coaches elsewhere, and the quarterback's in Minnesota. So that slate's pretty clean. So now let's see what they do with all of this. Mm-hmm. Let's see what they do with all this. I think that franchise, I have no idea why Ron Rivera went there. I think he's a better head coach than that franchise was with the past owner. For those that saw a season with the Carolina Panthers, they saw this is a pretty likable guy, obviously, that played. He's got an interesting angle. He can have some success. And as you mentioned earlier, like when he was the defensive coordinator in San Diego, they had a lot of success there too. So maybe we're seeing him with a lesson to learn. And I think Bieniemy can spin this into a positive. If he does, this is going to bode better for him to get more head coaching attention. If he takes this the wrong way or goes about it the wrong way, he's not going to advance himself anymore. So I hope he is thinking of that and has some advice to handling it well in these first couple days and first couple weeks. And then I also hope if there's guys that are not playing to the pro standard or are too soft, if you can find someone else to replace those guys, they're going to be gone. That's a tough lesson to learn, but for God's sake, it's the NFL. There is unfortunately like no room for softness. It's just too cutthroat and too outstanding.
I totally agree. And I'm going to tell you, around the league, people were disappointed and a little bit shocked in Rivera. So I thought that was interesting. So we're going.
It was odd. It was odd because it seemed to me like he was trying to say some of our guys are a little soft, and he definitely stumbled over doing it. I can imagine a lot of surprise because that doesn't happen. And obviously it's probably not going to happen anywhere else this whole preseason.
Totally agree. All right, Johnny, listen, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining us on the Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Hondo Carpenter. This is John Schopp. His podcast, the Spartan Pride Podcast. You can check it out if you're a Michigan State fan. Thanks, Johnny. See you next week.
All right.